have to ask it right then. Okay?
Gotcha. Easy enough?
All right. Okay. So to get started, have you already logged in to the system? Have you used your credentials yet?
I don't think so. No, I guess I haven't, because where would I go?
Yeah, so you're going to go to MOCN. Actually, you can use, if you can see my screen, you're just going to type this in, what I have highlighted in blue.
Okay.
mocn.memberclicks.net/administrator. If you want to go ahead and just give that a try, it's not a bad idea.
That, and it's got /administration.
Or administrator, and then.
Okay, there. And so I guess I have been here because my name and my password are on the screen.
Okay. You want to go ahead and get logged in?
I am logging in. Looks like I'm there.
Great. Now you can kind of follow along. And now we know that you can get logged in. So that's going to be your administrative link in order to access the admin portion of the website. So once you've logged in, you're going to be brought to a dashboard. The dashboard that we see here, there's a couple different dashboards, I should say. They are all just snapshots of what's going on in the system. We can access more information than just what we see here, but this is just giving us a quick synopsis, or summary, I should say, of what's going on in the system. Over here on the left-hand side, you have your current membership rosters. So these are the people that are in each of your member types.
Okay.
And we'll be able to follow, so numbers will populate as people are added. We'll be able to follow your members' memberships as they go through like a lifespan, a life cycle. So if they are an active member, they'll be able to pay their dues. Of course, most of your members will have, or they'll have to be an automated dues amount, so it'll automatically come out of their account. If for some reason anybody ever graces, they don't pay. Like if they come off that automation, they'll become a graced member. And in that period, they kind of have a little bit of extra time to pay. So we're giving them, it's just a grace period. We're just giving them some time where they can still pay their dues without necessarily being kicked out of the system. And if they still don't pay, then we'll follow them over to this lapse category. This is when they're still in the back end. You'll still see them. Nothing's changing about their account for you guys, for admin, but for the member themselves, they feel as if they've been kicked out of the system in a way.
Okay. Yeah, I don't guess we want that.
Yeah, well, and that's as long as, you know, that they just need to be paying, but most of the payments will all be automated. So most of your members will always just be hanging out in this active period.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking at your screen and you've got me up there.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is where we should be. Yes.
All right. Woohoo.
Does that make sense now?
Now I'm getting, yes. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. And then over here on the right-hand side, we just have new members in the last 90 days. These members are just going to be pulled out, so we'll have numbers populated. Anybody that's joined in the last 90 days will show up in this area. And that's just so that you guys can contact those members quickly and frequently, reiterating the membership benefits they're gaining by being with you guys.
Great.
Okay. As we continue to scroll down, if you guys have any events that go on, we'll create event registration forms. Those event registration forms will pull into this event dashboard. I don't think you guys are going to have too many events, so I don't really need to go in any more detail in this, I don't think.
I think Rose is going to be trying to put some events together, and I believe, but that's okay. I think we'll be putting some together.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about events when we get to the forms training. Forms are how we will create registrations for your events. So we are going to talk a lot about that when we get to that area. We're also going to talk about the membership application. So the only thing you need to know about this is if you have an event form, you'll be able to see the last 3 events that have taken place, the date that they were held on, and how many people registered. And then in the upcoming expected event attendance, it's just going to be up the 3 closest upcoming events, the date that they will be held on, and how many people have registered so far.
All right.
Down at the bottom, we have our financial dashboards. This is going to show us our aged receivables, how many invoices we have that are outstanding. So right now you've got 1 invoice that's outstanding for $1. It's 1 to 30 days past due, it appears. So we'll take a look at that when we get to the financial piece. Sales over time is just showing us how much money we've brought in per month per revenue account. So I can use my revenue account filter down in the bottom right, choose which revenue account filter we want to look at, and apply that filter to see exactly where the money's coming from and when it's coming in.
Gotcha.
Any questions on any of these items on the dashboard page?
Not at all.
All right, awesome. We're going to keep rocking and rolling. The next thing I want to talk about is your settings and account settings tab. So I'm just going to go to settings and account settings.
All right.
Now,
I do not have settings and account settings.
That is because you are not a super admin, or what we call an ASA. I can make you an ASA and you'll be able to see this. The only reason you'll need to be, whoever is going to be, so like after you've graduated, you guys will start calling into the help team. You only get 2 ASAs, these super admin accounts. If Ro is one of them, so any questions he has, he's going to be calling into the help team to ask. If you end up needing to be the second one, we can give you that ASA permission. But when you call in, they're going to ask for your account number. And so I can just show you now, this will be the account number that you can provide.
Okay.
This is also where you're going to be keeping track of how many custom profiles you're using and prospect profiles you're using. Custom profiles are paying members. Those are the members that pay you guys. Prospects are people who've maybe they're non-members and they've come to an event, or they started the membership application and then they backed out. Those are going to be people that you still want to reach out to and definitely do marketing to.
Right.
But they aren't paying, and so you get a higher number of prospective profiles than you do custom profiles. So it's 300 custom, 900 prospect.
Okay, and those are the caps, not how many.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. You've only got 5 out of your 300 profiles and 2 out of your 900 prospect profiles.
Gotcha.
And that's just what's in here now. I mean, obviously you guys have just launched this thing. So then we've got our time zone. What time zone is the website based in? It's based in Central Time. This membership year does not, it's being overridden somewhere else in the system for you guys because you're on a monthly and you're also on an anniversary based expiration date for your members. So this is being overridden by the system. Don't worry about what's in here.
Okay.
We are using a member number for your members. They don't necessarily have to see this, but this is good for you guys to use. You are using QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And then in the last 2 items that we have, we've got your billing contact information. This is just for us to have on file for you. And then right down here, this is something that I'm still missing. When you're members, so you'll be able to send emails from MemberClicks to your members. When you send those emails out, they can respond to those emails. Where do you want those responses going to? Should they be going to you or should they be going to Ro?
Well, you know, I'm glad to take all of those responses, but I don't know whether Ro is wanting them or not. You know, it's sometimes you can step on his toes, and sometimes he's putting them out there for you to walk with. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to put it as a follow-up in my email, and he's copied on that as well. So if he doesn't respond to it, maybe you can respond and say, hey, Ro, we just need to know.
Sure. I can write that as a question now.
Perfect. And I'm just going to go ahead and include it in my follow-up email.
Okay.
Follow up our recording. Please provide an email for member responses to go to. Okay. Great. Any other questions that you have on this account settings tab?
Not right now.
Okay. All right. The next item we're going to look at are financials. So I'm going to go to the financial tab and invoices. Now, because you guys, well, actually, we can definitely use you on here. So our financials over time, this is where all of your invoices will be housed in the system. So right now we've just created one invoice and it's for row. Now over time, you're going to have a ton of invoices. So you'll be able to search your invoices by first name, last name, organization name, or invoice number using the search bar in the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
We can also search our invoices by what type of invoices we have. So over time, right now you just have an ad hoc invoice. Over time, you're going to have renewals, invoices created by forms, even credit memos. So you can sort by invoice type. Lastly, we can also sort by invoice status. So you can view open invoices, paid, partial, or voided invoices. So at some point, you're going to have a ton of invoices in here, and all of these search tools will be really helpful in finding the invoice that you're looking for.
Okay.
I also can select the invoice number. So once we find an invoice we need to look at or take an action to, we can select that invoice number. I'm going to tag it.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an actions drop-down that becomes available. This will allow us to either email the tagged invoice. So this is going to say, it's going to bring up the email address that's in this person's file and say, okay, do you want to email it to this email address, or do you want to email it to maybe a different email address? So maybe I said, oh, I'm going to pay for Rose $1. So just send it to me. So you can put in somebody else's email address and send that invoice. You can also add additional recipients. So if you wanted to send this to multiple people at once, you could do that as well.
Gotcha.
Okay. All right. Next item that we want to look at, I also want to just show you that you can also create a PDF for any tagged invoices to print them off and send them snail mail. So you guys may at some point have members that want to see invoices, you know, in a letter. I doubt that's going to happen for you guys since you're on a monthly and you're on auto renewals. But just in case it ever did, that's how you would accomplish that.
Gotcha.
And then the last item, you can void tagged invoices. So voiding tagged invoices will just void the invoice. And you can do that in mass if you need to.
Okay.
Any questions so far on this? Make sense?
Yes. Yes, it makes sense. No, there's no questions.
Okay. Now I'm actually going to click on the invoice number, and it's going to bring us into the invoice. This is exactly what your invoices look like.
Mm-hmm.
A couple actions we can take to our invoices, a couple things I want to point out. We do have a notes area on our invoice. This will allow you to put remit payment to information or maybe some instructions, or if it's for a new member, you might want to say, welcome to members only credit network. You can put whatever you'd like in this section. I'm going to show you where you can do that at in just a moment.
Good. Okay.
Now, aside from that, we also have an area where you can enter invoice comments. That's where my cursor is right now. This area, whatever notes you put in here, are internal. So maybe you voided somebody's invoice, and if you're like me, if I walked away, I would forget like 10 seconds later why I voided the invoice. So this is a great place for you to keep notes. Voided invoice on so-and-so date because individual canceled membership, or individual is no longer coming to event, or something along those lines.
Gotcha.
Now from the invoice, we can also download the invoice to print off, void the invoice directly from the invoice, create a credit invoice, and lastly, we can pay the invoice. Now, since your members are on auto renewal, I highly doubt you're going to be doing a lot of this paying invoice. But if by chance somebody is going to give you their credit card information over the phone, I know a lot of times you guys are on the phone with these guys when you're signing them up. This is a great way to do that. And then if for any reason you receive a check, so maybe you guys have a sponsor that's coming on and is going to give you a check for $5,000, you could just do an offline payment. Choose what type of offline payment you're creating. Maybe it was a check. Making sure you have your amount to be paid, the check or reference number, the date received, and then you can submit the offline payment. At that time, the invoice will reflect as paid in the system.
Okay.
Make sense? Does that make sense,
Yeah.
that process?
It does, except that it's just telling me that something has been paid because somebody has said or told me over the phone that they're writing a check.
I wouldn't do it that way. It's like you've actually received the check in the mail and you're
Okay.
going to put it in.
All right,
Yeah.
very good.
Credit card information, if they give you their credit card info over the phone, you can put that in and this will run their credit card.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Make sense? Okay.
Yep.
And that's kind of everything on this invoice list. Now, over time, you guys will be able to pull a transaction report. So if I go back over the financial tab, there's a transactions area where you can pull a transaction report. You will have the ability to export a transaction report, import into QuickBooks, and reconcile your accounts. But I would suggest having a separate 30-minute training session with whoever's going to be doing the financials, if that's Ro or whoever, so I can teach them how to do that.
Okay.
Okay. Continuing to work under this financial and invoices tab, going back to the invoice list here, we've got a couple other icons that I want to go through with you. The next one is invoice templates. This is the first thing that I'm going to ask for you to do from our training today. So sometime after our training today and before our next one, I want you to dive in here and complete these invoice templates. I've already created a couple for you, and this may be all that you have to have. So invoice templates are, if your members decide to register for an event and they can come back and an invoice can be created for them, and they can come back and pay that invoice at a later date. You have to have an invoice template created because that invoice template is going to tell a notification to go out to let them know that they have an open invoice, to remind them they have an open invoice, to remind them they have a past due invoice, and to send them out a payment confirmation. So what I mean by that is specifically for events. Let's create an invoice template together.
Okay.
We're going to name our invoice template. So I'm going to name it events, and we're going to apply this invoice template in a form. So when we talk about forms, we're going to talk about this again, and then you'll see how they kind of connect. But from this point, we would need to determine when the invoice is due from the day that it was created. 30 days is typical. The footer info, this is that notes section that I pointed out on the invoice. So there's that notes area. It's pulling from this. Whatever you put in here is going to show up on the notes section of the invoice. And then you've got these different templates that you can set up. So if the individual registered for an event and you need an email to go out to them to let them know, hey, you've registered for this event and you have an open invoice, you would want to turn this on, and this is going to send them an email letting them know they have an open invoice. And you also would want to edit the email and put in some custom verbiage in here specific to events. You'd want to do the same for a reminder email, a past due email, and a payment confirmation email. Even if your members have to pay at time of the event registration, you still always want to have a payment notification email set up.
Okay.
Because nobody likes to make payment and then not receive some type of email that says, hey, thanks for your payment. Does that make sense?
Right. Yes, it does.
Awesome. So
I'm just trying to think of the events that we're doing. I guess this is more for the for the dealers events that we're doing.
Yeah, well, what I would do is I'd start, you want it to be more generic. So you won't need to create a new invoice template for every event. I just want you to create one invoice template like I just did here for you, just for events. So now all you have to do is go in here and maybe specify some of the verbiage and turn on the notifications that you would want to go out for this. So these are more general. This isn't sending specifics about events, like a specific event. This is more just kind of poking them and letting them know they have an invoice that they need to pay.
Okay.
So I would start off by writing a list of all the different types of invoices the system's going to create for you, and then create an invoice template for each of those different types of invoices.
Okay.
Can you maybe give me an example of one that you think you might like? Sponsorships, partnerships?
No, I can't. I mean, the invoices that we're going to be making out are, you know, I'm thinking that everything is going to be going through an automatic, just a automatic invoice where the members are getting that. But we do have other products that I've not really gotten all the way
Launched
involved in.
yet?
I'm looking right now at the credit repair and the the bringing in members, and not concentrating as much as I probably need to be on the other parts of this, where going to talk to dealers and getting some of this more dealer and business models that are out there. But if I, a business model, if I'm going to be sending out an invoice to an affiliated business that is, a mortgage bank, a mortgage broker, or somebody that we're doing stuff with, and they're paying the $2.99 a month. I don't know if that's. I guess I would have thought that that's just a reoccurring bill, but if it's an invoice that needs to be sent, we can.
It is going to be, yeah, it is going to be. So for dues, that's a great point. For dues renewals, those are all going to be automated in the system. And this, coincidentally, has nothing to do with dues renewals. Those notifications, that invoicing is going to happen from a separate place of this in the system. This is just for any other type of invoice that could be created. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I just don't know what other invoices that I'm going to be creating. I don't know. I'm trying to think of why I'm creating an invoice for someone other than a something that's an automatic renewal, other than something with the automotive advisor or getting into that business.
Yeah.
Am I missing something?
Well, I've already created a lot for you, and I did that so that you guys could launch.
Right.
So, like, if you guys ever have people register for events, that would just be one invoice they would receive. It wouldn't be reoccurring. They would just receive one invoice that they would then pay for the event. So that's already created for you. All you have to do is edit this and maybe customize the verbiage, and you might want to turn on more of these. You guys don't have events right now, so technically you don't have to do it right now. But
Right.
I do want you to just do that just to get in the practice. I also created a miscellaneous. So let's say that somebody called you guys and said, I want to be an affiliated business. I just want to give you a one-time check of $2,000, and then I'm just going to pay the regular. I just want to donate $2,000. You might use this miscellaneous invoice template for that, or you might want to have a donations invoice template that's a little bit more specific to just donations. You definitely need one for new members, because a new member is
Sure.
not a renewal. It's a new member. It's a brand new invoice. Now, once somebody becomes a new member, every time they pay dues moving forward is considered a renewal. So that comes from that separate bucket. But for this first time, when they become a new member, they are going to receive a notification from the new member invoice template. Does that make sense now? Does that help?
Yeah, the new member of what I've got, that I get. The and quite honestly, an event, if we do events that we're charging for, then that's great. I'd love to think that somebody's going to say, yeah, I just want to donate some money to you. I'm not really living in that world right now, so.
Why don't you do this? Just start with what we have in here, because I think that we've already covered pretty much everything you guys are going to need.
Right.
And I know you don't technically have donations, but just think about miscellaneous. You could probably just leave this verbiage as is, because it just says, please see the attached invoice. And all these emails are doing is just trying to make sure that people are going to pay their invoices, trying to make sure people don't have any outstanding invoices. So this miscellaneous, I would probably leave it as is. But maybe I would go in and just play around with some custom verbiage for the invoice templates for events and then for new members. And let's just leave it at that for now.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the next item that we have is our invoice settings. The invoice settings area is what pulls in the logo and your association information on the invoice itself. This is already done. I've already completed this for you, so we don't need to do anything here. But if you guys ever wanted to update your logo or organization information on the logos, this is where you could do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Did you have a question?
No, I was just thinking if we wanted to, I don't know if we want to do if we want to have it. Again, this is possibly me stepping on toes more than walking with them. But if we wanted to have the address of this office for certain things, but I don't know. That would be something down the line as we get into doing some things out of this office that we're not doing up in Chicago with.
Yeah, that's a great question. We can only have one invoice. Notice, like, this applies to all invoices. So
Right.
This organization information is going to go on all invoices no matter what. We can't have two different ones. There's only one place. But if you ever needed to put your office information on an invoice, I would recommend doing that on an invoice template. So over time, you guys may want to have different invoice templates for different offices. Maybe that's how you use these. Because if you remember, this sort of information is the notes section on the invoice. So you could say, you could even put your name. You could say your advisor information. And then you may want to put Derek. I think your last name was Flint. And you could say, 1234 North Carolina. You could put your info, your phone number, stuff like that. So this could be a good way that you could use these invoice templates, because this area here is going to show up on the invoice here.
Okay.
Under this notes area.
Scroll up. Where's the address and all of that? Okay, there you go. All right.
So that might be a good use of the invoice templates for you guys. Just a thought.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome. All right. A couple other things for us to talk about with invoices, with financials. Revenue accounts. Right now, you guys only have one revenue account called membership fees. One thing that I want to stress to you, if you guys ever create new revenue accounts, the revenue account you have in MemberClicks and how it's named in QuickBooks has to be the exact same. That is crucial. But that's not a big deal, because I highly doubt you guys are really going to be adding new revenue accounts. If you ever did need to do so, all you have to do is select Add New Revenue Account, put in the revenue account name. If it's for dues, you turn on dues. If it's not for dues, you leave dues turned off, and then hit Save. And that's all you have to do.
Okay.
Do you understand what revenue accounts are used for?
Yeah, keeping track of what bucket money goes into, and
Perfect.
It's really a tool that I believe I believe that we should probably be using. I'm not into the accounting of the company as it is right now, so I might be thinking too far into what he's doing, but I just don't know how we can do any kind of paying outs or do any of those things if we don't have revenue buckets of going into and going out of and that kind of stuff. It just seems like we need to have more buckets.
Exactly, and I definitely agree. As of right now, I think you guys only have member fees. Now, some associations will will create different revenue accounts for every member type that they offer. Sometimes I think that might be a little overkill. I probably see that less often than I just see a general member dues account or member fees account. But as you guys introduce events, if you have donations, you'll definitely want different revenue accounts, different buckets to put that money in. But for right now, just to get you guys started, membership fees is probably fine. Yeah. Exactly. Okay. Awesome. The last item we have is your payment processor. You guys are using authorize.net, and Ro already put in your API login and transaction key. So there's nothing that we need to do with this other than for you to know that the payment processor is located right here.
All right.
Okay. All right. Now, before we keep moving forward, do you have any questions on any of these financial pieces?
Not at all.
Awesome. So now I want to change the way we're thinking a little bit. We're going to go to the database tab and attributes. I want to talk a little bit about how you can search your member profiles and how they're organized. So an attribute is just a piece of information that's describing your members. So my name is Adrienne. My name is an attribute of who I am. We have different types of attributes in our system. And these different attributes are broken up into 3 different categories. The first type of attributes we have in our system are built-in attributes. That's what you see on my screen right now. Built-in attributes are what we've already built into the system because we know you guys collect this information on your members because all 1,800 plus associations we've worked with have completed this information on their members. So that's why they're in here. Now we can't change these, we can't get rid of them, but we could manipulate them or expand upon them. So what that means is, for example, the name. I can select edit settings, and right now you guys are only collecting first names and last names. If you guys wanted to get a little fancier, you could start collecting prefixes, middle names, or suffixes. You would just turn on whichever additional field you'd want to start collecting, and that would add it to your names field.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, in addition to name, we can also expand upon email address, physical address, and phone number. So for example, you guys have the ability to collect up to 5 email addresses, 5 physical addresses, and 5 phone numbers for one member. Right now, you guys are collecting a preferred and a spouse phone number. You could also collect like a professional, a cell, and maybe a secondary. So now I can't add any more labels. We've reached our limit, but these are all 5 different categories of phone numbers that you could collect on one member. Does that make sense?
It does. It makes sense. What you're saying is just seems a little like overkill.
Yeah, 5 is definitely overkill. 2 is, preferred and spouse for you guys makes sense. But if Ro's ever like, man, I wish I had a secondary email address. I feel like everybody I emailed, I just am not getting anything back. You could always say, oh, well, we can. And then you can select edit settings for the email address and add in an additional one in here if you wanted to.
Sure.
Awesome. Now, I've talked a little bit about built-in attributes. I mentioned we have 3 different types of attributes in our system. So the second type of attributes, type of group of attributes that we collect are called system attributes. Those are things like your member's member type, their expiration date, join date, last renewal date, basically anything that's tracking your member's membership period and how much they're going to pay you in dues or owe you in dues when they owe those dues. So we can't even change anything about those because it's crucial to have a specific set of those attributes for the system, hence system attributes. But we can view them in your members' profiles, which we're going to look at here in just a moment. So aside from built-in and system attributes, the third type of attributes that we hold in our system are called custom attributes. That's going to be down here at the bottom of this page. Just to remind you how we got here, I went to database and attributes. Now, in here, you guys have the ability to continue to change these custom attributes. As you grow, you can expand upon the custom attributes that are listed in the system. It's really easy to do so. But this is what we have for you guys here. And basically, it's just going to be any additional fields that were in your database or that we've discussed that we wouldn't have known you needed to collect on your members, but we saw that you needed to collect, so we created a custom field for you to collect that information. Does that make sense?
It does. You said that we can add these as we wanted to go. How do we do that?
Absolutely. So there's two ways to add new custom.
Sorry. It's in the big green one. Okay, I got it.
Well, I'm glad you asked the question. This is the more obvious way to add custom attributes. The way that I would ask for you to add them is just to copy an existing. The reason why is because there are settings that have to be created if you added it like brand new, whereas the settings automatically apply if you just copy an existing one. And then we would select edit. So here's our copied. And then we would just want to determine, okay, we're actually going to be collecting birth dates using this one just as an example. And we don't need a selection set for this. We actually just need a date field.
Gotcha.
Date brings up a little mini calendar. Country is a drop down of all the countries. File allows them to upload a file. Image allows them to upload an image. Number only allows numbers, no special characters or spaces. Selection set is what we were looking at just a moment ago, where they have options to choose from. State gives you a drop down of states. Text allows them to just type in whatever they want, and website is specific for website URLs. Selection sets are my favorite because these are really easy to search by in the system. They're great searchable attributes. I'll show you what I mean in just a moment.
Could I use this? My thought is during the application process, during we were trying to figure out, do we want to have them click on the person's name that brought them to us? So have them click on Roe, or have them click on Derek, or have them click on Kevin, or when they're filling out their form, and make it a mandatory. You got to click on one of these guys so that me or Roe or whoever it is that has signed this person up is responsible. And Roe and I can then go back and say, hey, Kevin, why didn't you call this guy back within X number of minutes, days, however we're wanting to manage it?
Yeah, so we can definitely do that. Now, I know one of the things we talked about is like a referral person. And like while you and Roe and whoever else are advisors, I could have been I might just be a member with you guys, and I may call up my friend and say, oh my gosh, like this is the best thing ever, you have to join too. So that would be a little bit different, but we could definitely add a custom attribute, and we could call this, well, we already added it. I'll just edit the one we just added. We could just call this maybe like advisor.
Okay.
And it would be like Roe,
right? Derek.
And then we could add in, like, as you guys have more advisors that come on, you could put additional names in here.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah.
Like Tom, Bob, John. And then they'd be able to choose who brought them on in the membership application. Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So I'll leave this like this. If you want to come in here and play around, you guys can add, your last names if you wanted to add more advisors, and then we can definitely add that to the membership application when we get to the forms training. That's something that we can do together.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Now, one more thing that we need to talk about with attributes before we keep moving forward, and that is your members have the ability to update their own profiles. And you will have to determine what they can update, what they can see, and what's completely hidden from them. So that's called profile owner attribute security. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that right now. I've already set this up for you guys because we just needed to get this launched, but I would like for you to go in here and make any edits that you feel that might need to be made. So what this is saying is, okay, as a dollar trial member, I can only see all of my information. I made it so that they couldn't edit any of their information, but you probably do want to allow them to edit some of their profile. You might want to give them the ability to update their address. So I'm giving them the little green pencil. And there's a legend over here that lets you know what each icon means. So the green pencil means they can edit. The blue eyeball means that they can see it. And if you see one of the red X symbols, that means they can't see it at all. I kind of set up best practices, but I would definitely get in here and allow them to update some of this information, like edit some of it themselves.
Okay.
Same for VIP. Same for the second year VIP. You know, whatever you feel like you want them to be able to edit in their own profile, I would go ahead and go through and make sure that this makes sense. Now, I also want to point out there are 7 more groups, because you guys do have a lot of groups. So as I continue to scroll over, there's going to be more groups that you'll want to do it for each. So like as a VIP company, this is a company. What can the company edit about their own profile? As the VIP contact, what can the contact edit about their own profile? So this all has to do with, if I am a $89 gold member, what can I do in my own profile? What am I allowed to edit? Does that make sense?
It does. Everything makes sense except for the way that it's laid out. You're going the where it says 7 more groups is fine, but then it pulls it. Looks like it's, I don't know the way it pulls. Maybe it's just me. Those eyeballs are kind of making everything a little wavy. But maybe I'm looking at it. It looks, no, it's fine. Now I'm looking at it. It's fine.
It can definitely mess with your eyes a little bit to see so many of these. If you'll go through here and just give it a check through, if you see NA, that means that that attribute doesn't apply to that type of profile. For example, gold, these are company profiles. Company profile doesn't have an address in the preferred. They have an address in the organization, because a company is actually an organization. Same thing like the contacts. The contacts don't have an address in the organization because they're not an organization. They have an address in the preferred. Do you see that? How there's NAs, and the NAs are just because those attributes don't apply to that member type. Give this a shot. Give it a look over. We're going to review it at the beginning of our next training, and just look at it. Let me know if it just was totally confusing. And I've already set it up, like I said, kind of to the best of my ability, but I want you to go back through and make sure it looks pretty good and feel comfortable if you ever need to make edits to it. Now, there is a second piece to this, which you're not going to have to deal with right now, but that's attribute security. So at some point in time down the road, your members, there will be a networking component that will be added into this. Now, right now, we don't have that because Ro doesn't, basically, he doesn't want all of the members to know that this is new and being built. Like, there's not millions of people in here right now. But plus, this has to do with like credit cards and stuff. And so there's a lot of sensitive information. So there's a lot of thought that would have to go into it. So right now, nobody can see anybody else's information. But over time, we're going to go through here and determine, okay, as a dollar trial member, what could I see in other dollar trial members? What could I see in $189 VIP member profiles or $189 VIP 2-year profiles? Like, what can I see in each of these other member types profiles? For admin, for example, you guys have the ability to see anything you want. So I'm going to go ahead and set you up so that as an admin, you can edit any and all. You can see and edit whatever you want about other member types.
Are you on me?
Am I on you?
When you're,
what do you mean?
Are you doing this on my profile? In other words, are you giving me these? Where is my name? You said you're giving me the admin ability. So where is my name that you're doing this to?
Well, I'm not giving necessarily you. You are so like I just searched your name using the search bar up here. You are an admin member type. So as an admin member type,
gotcha.
I'm giving you the ability to edit anything about anybody else.
Gotcha. All right. I see that.
Anybody else, we're going to leave them as they are right now, but for admin, you should be able to edit. I'm logged in as me. I have my own profile as well, if that's kind of what you're asking.
No, I was trying to figure out how you were giving me that access, but I didn't see me. But I do now see I'm admin. So
yep.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
I got it.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So don't have to worry about attribute security. I just want you to dive in here and try to take a stab at profile owner attribute security. Now, when we are searching your members, you're going to use the search bar probably all the time. You can type in 3 letters and it's automatically going to search for where those 3 letters apply in first names, last names, organizations, and email addresses. Once you've found the name that you're looking for, we can click on that individual's name and it's going to take us into their profile. So now I'm in your profile. These profiles are organized in a very specific way. That top left-hand box that you see up here with your name in it, these are all those built-in attributes that we just talked about. First name, last name, organization, physical address, email address, phone number. So these are all going to be those built-in attributes. Then over here in the right-hand box, these are all those system attributes. Expiration date, join date, last renewal date, member status. There's member type and member number. Now there's also a new term that I'm introducing called groups. So groups and member types are a little bit different. A member type determines your member's membership period and how much they owe in membership dues. A group determines the permissions that individual has in the system. So the reason these are 2 separate things is because a member type, you can only have 1 member type at any given time. If you are in multiple member types, that means you have multiple profiles, which means you have multiple logins, multiple profiles to keep updated information in. That's not a good practice. Right. So instead, you would just be in 1 member type. But you can be in multiple groups at any given time. So the way this is most frequently used is you guys may end up having a board of directors, or as advisors, you guys may all need to have permissions to the back end of the system. So you can all be, maybe you're all paying members, maybe you're all paying a certain amount of money. And so you would be in the member type that's charging you the money that you owe the association. But you would also be given additional group permissions. So I could put you in another group. That would give you the additional permissions in the system as an advisor or a board of director. If you guys don't have a special group with special permissions, then we can use the words groups and member types in exchange of one another. Does that make sense at all?
Yes, it does.
Cool. That's a little bit of a tough concept. We're going to be seeing this group.
It's for groups is not necessarily for something that we are doing right now.
Exactly. We don't have any of them set up right now. We can use groups and member types and interchangeably at this point. Right. But at some point, you or Ro are probably going to come to me and go, my advisors need permission to the back end, but they also need to be paying dues. And so in that case, I would just create an additional group, and I'm going to call it advisors, and we'll put those additional people in the advisors group while keeping them in their member type. So it's a little bit of a weird concept. We'll definitely revisit it if we need to, but as of right now, bless me, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. As of right now, we're going to keep those, where we can just use the words in exchange of one another. We're going to see this groups term all over the system. Literally in every training, I'm going to say the word groups. And it's just because there are permissions all over the system, and the groups are what create the permissions. So anyways, to continue to work through our members' profiles, at the bottom of your members' profiles, we have a summary of built-in attributes and custom attributes. Now, you may want to update your members' profiles at some point in time. The way that you would do that is you'd go into their profile, You're going to see this edit button. If you click on it, it makes all of these fields editable. Also from your members' profiles, there are these different tabs. Contact preferences allows you to see what contact preferences they've created in their profile. So your members can determine exactly what types of emails they want to receive from you guys. Message history is going to show you every message ever sent from member clicks to this individual. It'll also show you at a glance if the member opened the email, if they received it, if it bounced, if the send failed, whatever the case may be. You'll be able to see the status of that email right from that message history tab. We have e-list and committees. E-list and committees are really more about social community. We're going to talk about social community on our 4th training, so I'm not going to jump into what those mean today.
Okay.
The submissions tab will hold every form they've ever submitted, including their membership application, any events they register for down the road. All form submissions will be housed under that tab. The invoices tab is going to show you any invoice that has ever been created for this member. So every time they go through that auto renewal stage, there will always be an invoice created. It's just going to be automatically paid, but all of those invoices, all those paid invoices will show up in their profile under this invoices tab, whether they're paid, open, partially paid, voided, whatever the status. And then the last item that we have here is our notes tab. The notes tab allows you guys to keep notes about your members. So you may want to put notes in about the members that are underneath you that you're an advisor for. It could be personal information, it could be professional information, whatever would be helpful for you to kind of know who that member is. Any
Sure.
questions on how these profiles are organized?
No.
Okay, awesome.
Yes, I do. So
okay.
on the profile, if I let when I'm doing my I'm trying to say the right words here for this thing. If during my my member types attributes add my permissions.
Attribute security.
Yeah, we were just looking at, and we said we can give the $1 members the ability to look at this, edit, or just look, or not look at all.
Okay. That would have been under database and attributes.
Okay, good.
And attribute security.
Got it. Okay, so under the profile, is profile in that attribute security?
At this view, no. Under the profile list, this is an admin view. So you can see whatever you want to see about whatever you want to see, because this is the back end of the site. If we were on the
if I wanted to have notes, let's say we've got John Doe that we just signed up, and I've got John Doe's information in there. I want to write notes about John Doe so that if I'm speaking to John Doe, I can go to his profile, pull up the notes, and say, "Oh yeah, and your wife was in the hospital last week. What was how'd that go?" But I don't want him to know that I'm having to go through notes to remember that.
Yeah, I see your question. These notes will not be affected by profile owner attribute security or attribute security. These notes are only accessible on the admin view. No matter what, they're not even in those permissions, because you cannot give permission to the public on this area because it is specifically for administrators.
That's the question.
Cool beans.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, we've got to our hour today. There's one other thing that I wish we could have covered, but it's pretty usual to have at least one thing. We actually did really good. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you learned a little bit.
A little bit, yes, absolutely.
Cool. If you'll go in there, I'm going to send you a follow-up email as if I was sending it to any of my other associations. Keep in mind, I've already completed a lot of this for you guys because we just needed to get launched, but I did it to the best of my ability without without talking with you or Ro, because I was just
Right.
trying to get some stuff done, or I would hear what Ro said and I would just try to interpret it best I could. So go in there, even if it looks like it's already done, just give it a glance over, you know, maybe just poke around and see if you can come up with anything that should just be refined. And then when we jump on our next call, I'd like to spend maybe a couple minutes going over any questions that you had from today's call, but getting your hands in the system will really just help with knowledge retention. And then I think our next call is Wednesday. Awesome. So we're going to finish up our training from this. One other thing we want to go through, it'll take about 5-10 minutes, and then we're going to jump into content on Wednesday. Okay?
Okay.
Cool beans. All right. Well, I'm going to send you this follow-up email. You let me know if you have any questions between now and then. And if I don't hear from you, I'll talk to you Wednesday. Thanks for your time today.
You got it. Thank you, Adrian. All right.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.